Hey everyone, it's Lliam from Telos Culture. I'm super stoked because Pomelo Season 3 is in full swing. To celebrate, we're going to be diving deep into public goods, quadratic funding, and talking about how all of this comes together on Pomelo to fund the development of the open web. If you're a project, contributor, developer, artist, or anyone else that's leveraging EOSIO plus tech to build for the public good, then you don't want to miss out on this video, because at the end, we're going to be talking about how you can apply for a Pomelo grant to fund your work. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you get notified whenever we post more content like this. As always, I'm not a financial advisor, so none of the content in this video should be taken as financial advice. Before we get into things, I want to take a moment to shout out the communities that made this video possible. This video was funded by Telos Works, a public goods funding mechanism in the Telos ecosystem. Through this platform, we received funding for a number of initiatives to encourage more engagement in the latest season of Pomelo. We also want to shout out our friends at Pomelo, EOS, EOS Nation, EOS Asia, and everybody else who's brought the Pomelo platform to life. Now let's get into it. Before we can get too deep into what Pomelo is, we first have to understand public goods. Public goods are an important part of any healthy society. In economic terms, a public good is something that is non-excludable and non-rivalrous. Okay, but what does that really mean? Non-excludable goods can't exclude anyone from using them. They're open for anyone to access. Non-rivalrous means that as the good is consumed by one person, supply doesn't diminish, and consumption by others isn't limited. So, in a nutshell, a public good is basically a limitless resource that anyone can access. Examples of public goods include local infrastructure, public parks, clean air, public broadcasting, and more. Public goods are also present in the Web3 space. Examples include decentralized applications, open source software, impact-driven DAOs, and even the blockchain protocols themselves. A common problem with public goods is that while they have a high impact on people using them, they usually lack a sufficient business model to fund their growth. This has led to the rise of a number of public goods funding protocols, including Telos Works, Optimism, Gitcoin, and of course, Pomelo. Gitcoin and Pomelo both utilize what's known as quadratic funding, which leads us to the next segment of this video. What the f*** is quadratic funding? If you find yourself asking this question, you're not alone. In fact, it is so common that there is an entire website dedicated to answering just that. So, if you want to dive deeper, head over to WTFisQF.com, or stick around for a quick explanation. Quadratic funding is considered by many to be the mathematically optimal way to fund public goods, and it works like this. Pomelo runs seasonal funding rounds where capital is raised from two primary sources: matching partners and community donations. First, matching partners such as the EOS Network Foundation contribute to a large matching pool that will be distributed to grant applications. Distribution of that pool is really up to the community to decide. After a matching pool has been established and grant applications have been put forward, Pomelo enters the crowdfunding round. This is where community members can get involved by donating funds to their favorite projects that season. What you'll soon see is that it really doesn't matter how much you contribute, any level of donation will have a major impact on the results. Upon completing the crowdfunding round, the matching round kicks off. This is where the funds from the matching pool are distributed in a pretty cool way. Quadratic funding uses a formula to distribute a larger portion of funds to the projects with more community support. Rather than looking solely at the amount of funds raised by a project, the equation also takes into account the number of individual supporters that a project has. What this means is that projects with strong community support have a better chance at fielding resources, even if their community doesn't have many funds themselves. This is important as it gets away from structures where those with the most wealth have the biggest voice. Still confused? Let's head over to WTFisQF.com and jump into an example. Let's say that for an upcoming season, the matching pool has $10,000 in it. Now let's say that Grant 1 receives $5,000 from one donor. Grant 2 receives $1,000 from 10 separate donors. Finally, Grant 3 receives $30 from 30 separate donors. What you can see is that even though Grant 1 raised a larger amount overall, Grant 2 received the largest portion of the matching funds because it had more communal support. At the same time, while Grant 3 had more communal support, it didn't receive nearly as much funding. This is because the donations were extremely small in comparison. So there's still some weight given to the amount of funds a project raises, but the amount of individuals contributing to a grant is a much more impactful metric. This is all thanks to the math behind quadratic funding, and that math is a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but if you want to learn more about it, we'll drop some resources in the description below. Whew, that was a lot, but hopefully now you have a pretty good idea of what a public good is and how platforms like Pomelo use quadratic funding to get resources to these types of projects. But what does that mean for you? Well, whether you're a builder or a community member, there are plenty of ways you can get involved. First, if you have a project that you think qualifies as a public good, make sure you apply to the next season of Pomelo. Pomelo grants are not just limited to technical development, by the way. Pomelo supports a wide range of public goods that are contributing to the growth of the EOSIO Plus ecosystem. Not sure if you qualify or don't know how to apply? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Telos Culture created an in-depth guide on the application process and the steps that you can take to make sure your work qualifies. Check it out along with other useful resources in the description for this video. What about a community member? Even if you aren't applying for a grant, you should still get involved. Head over to pomelo.io and check out all the amazing grants that are live. Then consider donating to your favorite project. Remember, you can have a huge impact on a grant's success even if you don't have many funds to donate. Keep your eyes peeled because we'll be releasing another guide soon on the steps needed to donate to a project on Pomelo if you're coming from the Telos ecosystem. We'll be sure to link that in the description below when it's live. Well, that's about it. Thanks for sticking around and learning all about what makes public goods so frickin' good. I hope you're just as pumped as I am for the latest season of Pomelo and that you consider getting involved. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when we go live with more content like this. Also, head over to telosculture.com to learn all about our work, and if you like what you see, consider voting for us as a validator on the Telos mainnet. That way, we can keep bringing you content just like this. Last but not least, follow our socials in the description below so you can stay connected with the Telos Culture community. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.